Okay. Hi there, welcome to the IJM Talk with a Recruiter Google Hangout. We are so glad that you're joining us. Um, we're excited that you're signing on. We're going to give it a few minutes for people to get logged in. Just a couple of instructions before we get started. You'll notice that there is a poll with 2 questions. We'd love to hear who you are. We want to know who's listening, who's joining in, and find out more about you. So if you could go to the event page and find those couple of questions in that poll, and just fill that out right now or during the Google Hangout so that we'll know more about you. As well, we'll be asking you to submit some questions so that we can answer your questions directly. But welcome, we're really glad you're here. I'm Jen Mabe. I'm the Director of Recruiting at IJM, International Justice Mission. And we're holding this Google Hangout. It's part of a series that we do on the recruiting team to really open up who we are as an organization and who we are as individuals. And so we invited you to be a part of this one. The focus today is exploring careers in nonprofit accounting. Yay. And we have some special guests with us today, and I'll be introducing those in just a moment. The purpose of the Hangout is really just to invite you all into our world, to break down those walls and give you a window into the organization, the internal operations, giving you a way to have somewhat of a dialogue with some of our employees here and just learning more. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us at this Hangout. I'd like to introduce Christine Spears. Christine is a Senior Manager of Accounting and International Payroll, and she is one of our superstars in the Finance and Accounting team. And also Kirk Mitchell. Kirk is the Accounting Manager of Grants, and he's going to be telling us about some of his experiences as well. So just to give you a little bit of information about the timeline, what we'd like to do is just give you some information about these special guests, and they'll be sharing some information about their work and who they are as individuals. And then we'd like to ask some questions just to open it up, and then we'll be taking your questions, and Kirk and Christine will be answering those questions throughout the Hangout. So be thinking of the things that you want to find out today. So to start with, Christine, I'd love for you to tell the audience who you are, what you do, and just a little bit of background about you.
Sure. So I'm Christine Spears. I am currently a senior manager in the accounting department over payroll and income tax, and also some general accounting or general ledger functions. And I came to IJM 10 years ago. I first heard about IJM when I studied abroad in Thailand, where IJM had an office, and that was in college. And at that time was just sort of getting introduced to, learning about my passion and interest for social justice issues and on an international level. But also was really passionate about accounting. It was something I really enjoyed, and that was my major in college. So in college, decided to pursue a career in accounting, and then just kind of hoped that eventually I'd be able to kind of blend the two together in terms of my interests in accounting and then also interests for social justice. So I started working in public accounting at KPMG as an auditor, and I had hoped or kind of intended or thought that it would be that the best way to get in a nonprofit track would be to audit nonprofit clients, which didn't end up actually happening. I was more focused, or my focus was insurance, of all things. But I kind of kept, I continued to support IJM as a prayer partner and just kind of kept my eye on the careers page with IJM and hoped that if somehow I'd be able to bring some accounting knowledge to the accounting department at IJM. And then just eventually a job opened up, which was the accounts receivable manager, and I ended up interviewing and taking the job. And even though I didn't have a nonprofit experience in terms of career background, I really found that my audit experience just had prepared me well to sort of dive into something new. Just as an auditor, there's you're always sort of faced with new clients, new processes, and just you're learning how to learn those, get a grasp of those things very quickly, and then kind of move into them. So that's kind of how I came to IJM. That's my backstory then, and I've been here now for 10 years.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much, Christine, for sharing that. And Kirk is an example of someone that has joined us more recently. The staff has grown from 5 people 10 years ago to more than 20 people, including the regional accounting managers who report into HQ. So, Kirk, tell us a little bit about how you got to IJM and your background.
Sure, happy to. Well, welcome everybody. Just to start out, my father was a CPA, a very well-respected person in our community, worked very hard, and I really admired him, but I swore I'd never be a CPA. So when I went to college, I was going to be a general business major, but after a couple of years of people going out to look for jobs who were just general business majors, it was clear that the accountants were the ones who were getting jobs, so I quickly changed my major to an accounting major, and ended up getting a job with a Big 8 firm right out of college. But did I like it? No, not that much. I didn't really like auditing oil and gas companies and other companies because I was interested more in nonprofits even back then. So I actually got out of accounting for a number of years, doing everything from real estate investment to working for a doctor's office, to going to grad school, to working for an evangelist as his executive assistant for three and a half years, and then serving with Youth with a Mission Mercy Ships for about a little over 2 years, where I met my wife. We met actually on the Love Boat, we call it, the Anastasis, the YWAM's Mercy Ship, a hospital ship. And so we ended up coming back here to DC, where she had gone to school, and the whole idea was for us to stay here for a year and then go back to the ship, but God had other ideas, so 18 years later, here I am. And I actually started working for a ministry that does work all around the world, not so much development work, but very relational work. And it was through that, back in 1997, that I actually met Gary Haugen. He was at the National Prayer Breakfast, and I was at a dinner for African leaders. And so we got to talking, and he said, here's a brochure on this international justice mission that I just started. I had no idea back then that I would work for IJM, but I knew people at IJM over the years, and I worked with them on different questions because I was in nonprofit accounting for a public accounting firm for about 8 years, and then I became CFO of another small relief and development organization through a contact with Mercy Ships, and eventually through some different cycles ended up applying for a job at IJM because every other door just seemed to close, but God knew exactly where I should be, when I should be, and IJM was the place, and it's been a really, really good place for me to use my skills and to have good family life balance, which is really important to me.
Good. Thanks so much for that background, Kirk. I get to work with Kirk and Christine as just as a director of recruiting. I get to partner with them as they have openings on their team to help find and recruit candidates to join their team. So it's always a pleasure to get to work with people that have such interesting backgrounds and just enjoy what they do every day. I'd like to pause just here and invite the audience to respond with any questions that they are interested in. Go ahead and put your question in the Q&A tab, and we'll be collecting those questions and responding to those. One of the things that you might be interested in is finding out more about international accounting, which I'd like for us to touch on during the Hangout. Kirk has some experience in that, as does Christine, so that's an area that we can touch on as well. If you all would, let's just start with a general question about why is accounting and finance important to the success of IJM specifically?
Well, I can start. I think one reason that comes to mind is the fact that IJM's financial information is pretty easily accessible by donors and just anyone who's interested in seeing the work that IJM does and just how we're using our donor funds. in the form of a tax return filing that's on our website, and then just also general ratings, organizations that rate different nonprofits. It's based fairly heavily on the finances and just in how those align with the mission of the organization. So I think there's a big responsibility in the finance and accounting departments to ensure that that information is accurate and that we're reporting things correctly and just and also being good stewards of the money that's been provided to us as an organization. So I think that comes to mind as one of the critical reasons I think why finance is key.
And I would add that we live in a country that's highly regulated in a lot of ways. We're a very free country, but there's a lot of regulations about businesses and nonprofits, and without proper accounting and finance, you can quickly run afoul of many regulations. And of course, payroll, it's very easy, but we also operate in a number of different countries, all of which have different requirements for accounting and finance data, for reports, for tax returns, whatever it might be. And without having accurate and timely information, we'd be in trouble almost anywhere we operated. So it's a high priority, a very strategic priority of IJM as a whole to have excellence in the accounting and finance area. And then remember, accounting is not just accounting for what's happened in the past, but it's also using that data to help project for the future. So giving management sort of a vision of what the future is, looking at the numbers and looking at the budget and looking at projections, etc. So very important.
Great. Well, you all do a great job at it. We really appreciate
Thanks.
it. There's the annual audit, and it's just a lot of work goes into everything, and it's really helping to keep IJM where it needs to be. So you talked about the data and the numbers and reporting and a lot of the information that is so critical, but how do you stay connected to the mission and to the work in the field? I think finance may not be the first thing that people think of when they think about the work that IJM does. So how is it that you and your team stay connected to the work and the mission and really the heart of IJM?
Well, I would say that just in the day-to-day interaction with people at IJM, you're working with different departments, whether it's the program departments here at headquarters or the donor department or the field offices. We're in constant contact with some department or another because they need our information and we need their information. But one of the best things for me, just being here 18 months, has been the 11 o'clock daily prayer time that we have. Half an hour, 11 to 11:30 every single day. All the staff here come to that, and we always get to hear prayer requests. What is, a prayer request for an operation going on in India right now as we're praying, or something else, or praise requests. These girls were just rescued in Cambodia last night because of a rescue operation, or this government official cooperated and did some of the rescue work after some good training from IJM. So the 11 o'clock prayer time is a great way to stay connected to the mission and I would say stay connected to the heart of God, which is He's very much about justice for the nations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say it's been fun to see. I think over the last 10 years, IJM was a lot smaller when I started. It was probably about a quarter of the size that it is now, at least in HQ, where we're located. And at that time, there was it was very easy to kind of stay connected to the entire organization. It was much smaller, but but I've seen that IJM really values that the organization knows each other and knows the work and all feels connected. So even as it's grown, there's been a lot of intentionality in making sure that departments like the finance department, that's considered more of a support department, feels connected to the work. So like Kirk mentioned, the 11 o'clock daily prayer is the entire organization getting together and sharing what's happening in the field. And there are also things like periodic brown bag lunches where field operations or the aftercare team or even finance could share sort of what's happening within their department and share and just give an overview, like a more in-depth look at a specific project or something that they've been able to specifically see sort of a beginning, middle, and end, and give a picture of what's happening in a more robust way than the prayer requests we get. And various other ways. There's a lot of mixing of departments that we have quarterly retreats, and there's just a lot of ways, I think, where there's sort of an intentionality of people getting to know people outside of the department and feeling that connection.
But I would add, too, that IJM does a lot of work. Keep in mind that we have more than 18 field offices in different countries, and it's important for the local nationals and the leaders of those field offices to stay connected to headquarters and vice versa. So the prayer time is one way, but for me, one of the most exciting things I did last year was attend the global prayer gathering that IJM has been holding for, 11 or 12 years now. I got to attend for the first time, and we had field office directors and staff from each of our field offices come and set up a room where we could really learn about the specific things that those countries are working on. And people from all over the country outside IJM came just to help pray for those issues that we're trying to work on and we can't work on without God's help. So to me, the global prayer gathering was one of the greatest ways to bring staff on the field, staff at the headquarters, and the general public and donors who support IJM all together, praying for the things that are clearly on God's heart. It's great.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's coming up. It's in April. It's April 17th and 18th this year. And it's such a great opportunity for employees to come together and be refreshed and remember why we do the work that we do every day, but also we're inviting friends and people that may not really know that much about IJM. Over 1,000 people come and join us to pray about the work, to learn about it, and it's just a really unique opportunity over a couple of days to hear about the work and pray about it. It's like no other event I've ever been to, so great. Well, tell the audience a little bit about what your team is focused on right now. What are the things that accounting and finance are working on right now that may be unique or interesting in this season?
Christine's focusing on payroll, so that's great. Now we just finished closing out the fiscal year. We're on a calendar year basis, and so the year was closed about a week ago, and at the same time we're still working on getting January transactions in, but I think as of today, January is officially closed. So we are now working on audit preparation because the audit is going to be taking place soon. But one of the other things, a major thing that's very important to us and very important to IJM management is the new ERP system, or Global Business Enterprise System. It really helps that the infrastructure is critical in any nonprofit in order to move the mission forward. And management clearly recognizes that we really need a system that brings together the field offices, the headquarters, finance, and other aspects. Again, how do you keep the mission going forward? How do you keep the troops supplied, as our Chief Operating Officer likes to say?
Yeah, speaking of payroll, this large system that we're rolling out, really, it's going to tie together not just the accounting department, but also HR and fundraising. And so it's quite a lengthy process. It's a pretty big step for IJM as an organization in terms of the size that we're getting to, where we need something that's pretty complex. And so we've had a great opportunity of in the finance department of really being able to weigh in on the things that are important to us individually in on our own teams, or just how, what we think is going to be best for the organization. And so it's unique, I think, in that we're small enough where everyone can really give their feedback, but large enough where we're getting into something that's pretty complex and exciting in terms of functionality for the organization. So it's definitely been a fun time and a lot of work too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it takes a lot of collaboration, not only from different departments here, but all of our field offices, our field finance staff, our regional accountants are all involved in the process of helping to decide on a system, helping to decide what critical parts of a system we need to help bring the accounting even more focused than it is. So it's a great chance. It's a huge project. It's difficult, but there's a great chance to collaborate and use the skills of all the people around IJM, not just here at headquarters.
Great. Yeah, the ERP system is an example of how I think IJM is really growing up. It's really maturing as an organization. The tremendous growth that we've experienced over the last several years is just amazing. And to have the infrastructure in place to help us so that we can continue to do the rescue operations and support all the work happening in the field is really tremendous. So we are thrilled and so thankful for all the donors that help support the work in so many ways. Well, we're gonna, audience, if you have some questions, feel free to send those in. My colleague Andrea is going to be feeding me those questions throughout, and we'll continue to get information from Christina and Kirk. I'm imagining that some people in the audience are in different places in their life. They could be students that are trying to decide on a major. They could be recent graduates. They could be people who are in public accounting, or people who are already in international nonprofits that are just interested in finding out more about IJM and our nonprofit accounting approach. What would you say to people who are interested in perhaps moving into the nonprofit space, that may be a student or they may be in public accounting or a corporation, and what it was like for you to make that leap, and if you have any advice for them if they're even considering making a change in their career?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is in terms of a student who may be interested in potentially working for an international nonprofit, our internship opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a valuable way to really see firsthand what it looks like to work within an international nonprofit. It's something that I wished I had maybe taken advantage of, or that I think when I was thinking about finance at IJM, I just had no idea what to expect. I didn't know if it was a 2-person department or 50 people running the finance department. I didn't have any clients as an auditor. I didn't have any clients that were nonprofits, and I didn't know what size of a nonprofit you would need to do the work that IJM's doing. And so